When you think about hacking, you probably picture someone, right? Hunched over a keyboard, furiously typing, trying to smash through some digital wall with brute force or, I don't know, super clever code. But what if the most dangerous attacks, what if they aren't breaking down the door at all? What if they're just listening? Yeah, let's get into it.
I mean, it sounds like something straight out of a spy movie, right? The idea that you could steal a secret password just by listening to a computer's hum, that the faint, high-frequency sounds your computer is making right now could betray its deepest secrets. But here's the thing, this isn't fiction. This is a very, very real field of cybersecurity. And that's really the core idea here. It's a whole different way of thinking. So forget the digital battering ram. The smartest thieves, it turns out, are the ones who can figure out everything they need to know just by analyzing these tiny, unintentional clues a system gives off, simply by doing its job.
All right, so what do we actually call this kind of spooky form of digital eavesdropping? Well, it's all about something called a side channel, and we're going to unmask these ghosts in the machine. Let's get a clear definition. Okay, so this is the crucial point. The encryption itself, the algorithm, it can be mathematically perfect, absolutely unbreakable. But a side channel attack, it couldn't care less about the math. It completely ignores the algorithm and instead focuses on the physical hardware that's running it. We're talking about your phone, your laptop, even some giant cloud server. And it exploits the little bits of information that hardware accidentally leaks. Here's a great way to think about it. A direct attack? That's like trying to blow a bank safe wide open with dynamite. It's loud, it's messy, it's brute force. But a side channel attack? Oh, that's way more subtle. It's like a master safecracker, pressing a stethoscope to the door, listening for the faint clicks of the tumblers, and figuring out the combination just from those tiny sounds. See? Two completely different ways to steal a secret. So, now we get to the really interesting part. Just how many ways can a computer betray itself? These leaks, as they're called, show up in some truly surprising ways. I mean, we're talking about everything. From the exact amount of time a computation takes to tiny little variations in how much electricity it's using, even the sounds it makes or the electromagnetic fields it gives off. Every single one of these can be a clue for an attacker who's listening in. Okay, let's make this super concrete. Imagine your computer's CPU is doing some heavy-duty encryption. Well, it turns out that certain operations use just a tiny bit more power than others. So if an attacker can precisely monitor the CPU's power consumption, they can see this pattern of spikes and dips, and from that pattern, they can literally read the individual ones and zeros of the secret key as it's being processed. It's just like watching a light bulb flicker to read Morse code. Incredible, right? And oh, it gets even more creative than that. Get this, attackers have shown they can steal data just from the blinking of a hard drive's little LED light. Or they can use an infrared camera to see which parts of a chip are heating up, and that tells them what kind of work it's doing. This isn't just about software anymore. At this point, we're talking about hacking the laws of physics. Now, you might be thinking this is all super cutting-edge, 21st century stuff, right? But the core idea, it's actually decades old. We're talking all the way back to World War II, when engineers first noticed that encrypting teletypes were leaking decipherable signals. The basic principles that spies used during the Cold War to listen in on the electrical noise of IBM typewriters, those are the exact same principles being used today to attack our most advanced CPUs. It's a really old idea in a brand new form. Okay, so if this is an old idea, why does it matter so much now? What makes these modern digital heists such a huge deal today? Well, think about the cloud. So many of us are using software as a service, right? Our data lives on servers we never see. That means your virtual machine could be running on the exact same piece of physical hardware as someone else's. And that shared environment, even with all the encryption in the world, it opens up a huge new playground for side-channel attacks. And look, this isn't theoretical at all. You've probably heard the names Meltdown and Spectre. These were two massive hardware bugs that hit back in 2017, and they affected pretty much every modern computer. At their very core, they were cache-based side-channel attacks. They basically allowed an attacker to leak the memory of other programs and even the operating system itself. It was an absolutely devastating security flaw. So if these attacks are literally built into the physics of how computers work, how in the world do you defend against them, right? How do you fight an invisible threat? How do you fight a ghost in the machine? Well, thankfully, the good guys have been working on this for a long time. And the defense strategies really boil down to two core ideas. One,
You can try to muffle the clues, just make them way harder to read. Or two, you can disguise the secret itself, so even if the clues leak out, they're totally meaningless.
So let's talk about muffling the clues. This can be super direct, like putting a device in a special shielded box to block any electromagnetic leaks. Or, on the software side, you can just inject random noise, add little delays to calculations to totally confuse anyone trying to time them. Probably the coolest solution, though, is writing code that is designed to run in the exact same amount of time, no matter what data it's crunching. No timing variations means no clues to leak. All right, and then there's strategy number 2, disguising the secret. And this stuff is really clever. There's a technique called blinding, where before you do any math on your secret data, you mix it up with a random number. So any information that leaks out is related to the randomized stuff, not your actual secret. Then there's masking, which takes it a step further. It splits the secret value into multiple different shares. The computer only works on the individual shares, so an attacker would need to get all of them to have any hope of putting the puzzle back together.
And that really brings us to a final, pretty critical question to think about. Our world is just getting more and more connected, right? Our devices are getting smaller, they're in our pockets, in our cars, all over our homes. And they are all constantly emitting these tiny invisible signals. It really makes you stop and wonder, what invisible clues are we all leaking right now without even realizing?